There is a massive, invisible trap that 99% of men fall into every single day. You walk into a room, someone makes a subtle comment, and instantly your heart rate spikes, your ego flares up, you feel the burning need to defend yourself, to explain, or to strike back. You think you are showing strength by defending your honor, but here is the cold, uncomfortable truth. By reacting, you have just proven exactly how weak you are. Welcome to the ultimate guide on how to never take anything personally again. Today, we are not talking about ancient history. We are talking about modern survival. We are decoding the psychological framework that separates a truly powerful man from an emotionally fragile boy. There is a hidden truth about human behavior that, once understood, makes you completely immune to insults, disrespect, and emotional manipulation. It is a level of mental superiority known only to a fraction of men. Are you ready to stop being a puppet to the opinions of others? Drop a comment below right now with the word untouchable if you're committed to mastering your mind. Let us begin. We live in an era of hypersensitivity. Modern society is a loud, chaotic arena where everyone is offended and everyone is constantly shouting to defend their fragile egos. Men today are implicitly taught a disastrous lesson. They are taught that every comment is an attack, and that a strong man must aggressively defend his territory against every slight. But look around. The men who are constantly defending themselves are exhausted. They are anxious. Their emotional state is completely dependent on how their boss, their partner, or some stranger on the internet treats them. They have outsourced their emotional stability to the unpredictable chaos of other people. Imagine walking through life knowing that no one, absolutely no one, holds the power to make you feel inferior, angry, or insecure without your direct permission. This is not about becoming a cold, unfeeling robot. It is about reclaiming your sovereignty. The problem is not what people say to you. The problem is your internal architecture. Right now, your walls are made of paper. We are going to rebuild them with steel. The illusion of the target. When someone directs their anger, their criticism, or their toxic energy at you, the immediate biological response is to feel like you are the target. You feel the heat of the attack, and your ego immediately raises its shields. But here is the secret that separates the emotionally elite from the rest of the herd. You are almost never the actual target. People do not interact with you. They interact with their own mental projection of you. When a man lashes out, he is fighting a ghost inside his own head. He is fighting his own insecurities, his own bad day, his own failures. You just happen to be standing in the blast radius. Most men take this personally. They internalize the attack and believe it says something about their own worth. This is a fatal psychological error. An untouchable man understands that he is merely a screen upon which others project their internal movies. When you realize that their anger is entirely about them, the insult loses all its kinetic energy. It falls flat at your feet. You do not need to defend yourself against an attack that was never really about you in the first place. The fragile architecture of the ego. To stop taking things personally, you must brutally examine why it hurts. Why does a mere collection of words cause physical pain in your chest? It hurts because your ego is currently a fragile construct built entirely on the validation of external forces. You have built your house on someone else's land. Your ego is a survival mechanism designed to keep your social status safe. But in the modern world, this mechanism misfires. It treats a sarcastic joke like a physical threat to your life. The weak man identifies completely with his ego. When his ego is insulted, he feels he is being destroyed. The elite man steps back. He separates his core identity from his ego. Imagine your ego as a coat you are wearing. If someone insults the coat, do you bleed? No! You can take the coat off, examine it, and decide if the critique is valid. By detaching your self-worth from the immediate reactions of your ego, you strip the attacker of their power. You watch your ego react from a distance, calmly, without getting dragged into the fire. The mirror of projection. There is a psychological phenomenon that will completely change how you view disrespect. It is called projection. When someone attacks a specific trait in you, they are almost always revealing their own deepest shame. The loudest critics are the ones carrying the heaviest internal burdens. Think about the man who constantly mocks others for being lazy. He is secretly terrified of his own lack of progress. The person who insults your intelligence is deeply insecure about their own competence. They are handing you a map to their own psychological wounds. When you understand this, anger is replaced by a cold, analytical observation. Sometimes it is even replaced by pity. Why would you take it personally when a bleeding man screams at you? You would not. You would recognize that his screaming is just a symptom of his own pain. This is what distinguishes a strong man. He does not take the bait. He looks right through the insult and sees the broken mechanics of the mind that produced it. The outsourcing of emotional control. Let us talk about power. When you take offense, you are engaged in the ultimate act of submission. You are literally handing the remote control of your emotional state to another person. You are saying, "Here, my mood is yours to dictate. If you smile, I am happy. If you insult me, I am furious." Is there anything more pathetic for a man striving for greatness? You spend hours in the gym building your body. You spend years building your career. Yet you let a random comment from a stranger tear down your mental peace in 3 seconds. Taking things personally is a voluntary surrender of your sovereignty. The untouchable man refuses to hand over the remote. He operates on a closed-circuit system. His validation, his peace, and his anger are generated internally. If someone tries to inject poison into his system, he simply denies access. You must draw a hard line in the sand today. Decide that your emotional weather is controlled by you, and you alone. The power of the gap. There is a concept in behavioral psychology that acts as the ultimate weapon for a strong mind. It is the gap between stimulus and response. When an insult hits your ears, there is a fraction of a second before you react. For the average man, this gap is non-existent. The stimulus directly triggers the reaction. He is insulted, so he shouts back. The elite man stretches this gap. He lives inside it. In that silent pause, all your power resides. Someone says something meant to cut you deeply. You pause. You breathe. You observe the sensation in your body. In that 2-second delay, you strip the emotion from the event. You realize that you have a choice. You can choose to be offended, or you can choose to be amused. You can choose to engage, or you can choose to walk away. Mastering this gap is the foundation of modern mental toughness. The next time you feel the sting of disrespect, force yourself to wait 3 seconds before speaking. Watch how the dynamic of the entire room shifts. Treating words as mere data, we give words too much magical power. We treat them like spells that can physically harm us. But what are words really? They are just sound waves travelling through the air. They have zero inherent power. The only weight they carry is the weight you assign to them. A highly strategic man views insults and criticism not as emotional attacks, but as raw data. Imagine you are a scientist analysing a soil sample. When someone criticises you, ask yourself one cold, logical question. Is this data accurate? If the criticism is true, why be angry? They have just pointed out a flaw you need to fix. Thank them internally for the free consulting. If the criticism is false, why be angry? It is just bad data. You do not get angry at a math problem that equals the wrong number. You just dismiss it. By converting emotional attacks into cold data, you completely disarm the attacker. You remain untouched, calculating and superior. The myth of defending your honor. One of the biggest traps for masculine psychology is the concept of honor. Society tells you that if you do not react to an insult, you are a coward. You are told that standing up for yourself means raising your voice and matching the aggressor's energy. This is a complete myth designed to keep you reactive and easy to control. True honor is not dependent on the barking of dogs. If you are walking down the street and a dog barks at you from behind a fence, Do you get down on your hands and knees and bark back to defend your honor? Of course not. You keep walking. The same applies to human barking. Reacting to a lesser man's disrespect does not elevate your status. It pulls you down into the mud with him. The highest form of dominance is non-reaction. It signals to the room that the attacker is so far beneath you that his words do not even register on your radar. That is true power. The psychological weapon of silence. When a person insults you, they are expecting a specific transaction. They are throwing a ball, and they expect you to catch it and throw it back. They want the drama. They want the conflict because it validates their existence. What happens when you simply refuse to catch the ball? Silence is the most terrifying response to an aggressor. When you look at someone who has just tried to insult you, hold eye contact, and say absolutely nothing, the psychological pressure reverses instantly. Your silence forces them to sit alone with the stupid thing they just said. It magnifies their insecurity. They will often start stuttering, backpedaling, or making excuses. You have not raised your voice, you have not broken a sweat, yet you have completely dominated the interaction. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a heavy, crushing weight that only a truly disciplined man knows how to wield. Devaluing the source. We often take things personally because we unconsciously elevate the status of the person speaking. We give their opinion a premium value. But let us apply some brutal logic here. Who is actually doing the talking? Look at the life of the person who is insulting or judging you. Are they living a life you admire? Do they have the discipline, the wealth, the relationships, or the mental peace that you desire? In 99% of cases, the answer is a resounding no. They are usually miserable, chaotic, and undisciplined. Why on earth would you take criticism from someone you would never take advice from? This is a fundamental rule of elite psychology. You must aggressively filter whose opinions matter. The words of a fool should mean nothing to a king. Mentally devalue the source. Realize that their judgment is worthless currency. You cannot buy anything of value with the opinion of a loser. Escaping the addiction to being right. A massive reason you take things personally is your desperate need to be right. When someone misunderstands you or mischaracterizes your intentions, your ego panics. You feel an overwhelming urge to correct the record, to explain yourself, to prove them wrong. This is an exhausting addiction. You must realize that you are not the public relations manager of your own life. You do not need to manage everyone's perception of you. People will misunderstand you. They will twist your words. They will assume the worst about your character. Let them. The need to be understood by everyone is a massive vulnerability. The strong man is perfectly comfortable being the villain in someone else's story. He does not waste energy trying to convince a committed enemy of his good intentions. He drops the need to be right, walks away, and lets his actions speak over the long term. Release the burden of explanation. Radical emotional responsibility. It is time to swallow a very hard pill. If you are offended, it is your fault. Yes, they may have been rude. Yes, they may have been toxic. But the negative emotion burning in your chest is entirely your creation. This is the concept of radical emotional responsibility. As long as you blame others for how you feel, you remain a victim. You are waiting for the world to become polite so you can finally be happy. That day will never come. The world is rough, unfair, and full of abrasive people. By taking complete ownership of your reactions, you reclaim all your power. You say, they threw the poison, but I chose to drink it. Once you admit that you are the one drinking the poison, you can simply choose to put the glass down. This shift is painful at first because it destroys your victim card. But on the other side of that pain is absolute invincibility. Building the mental fortress. Think of your mind as an elite, high-security fortress. Right now, you are leaving the front gates wide open. Any random stranger, any passing comment, any negative email can just walk right in and start rearranging your furniture. You must establish a strict security protocol for your mind. When an insult arrives at the gate, it must be interrogated. Is this useful? Is this true? Does this serve my ultimate goals? If the answer is no, The gate stays shut. The insult is left freezing in the cold. This requires daily practice. It means actively monitoring your internal state. When you feel the heat of anger rising because of something someone said, you must visualize the gates closing. You observe the noise from the watchtower, but you do not let the enemy into the courtyard. Over time, this visualization becomes a subconscious reflex. You become a fortress that cannot be breached by mere words. Navigating attacks from loved ones. It is one thing to ignore a stranger on the street. It is a completely different challenge when the attack comes from someone you love, a partner, a family member, or a close friend. This is where most men break, because you trust them. Their words bypass your security gates and hit you right in the core. But the core principle remains exactly the same. Even people who love you have bad days. Even they project their insecurities. When your partner lashes out, it is rarely about you leaving a cup on the table. It is about their stress, their exhaustion, or their unresolved trauma. Taking it personally in these moments destroys relationships. It turns a moment where they needed a strong, grounded presence into a chaotic battle of two fragile egos. The elite man remains an immovable mountain even when his loved ones create a storm. He does not take the anger personally. He looks behind the anger to see the root cause. This is the ultimate form of masculine stability. The trap of expecting a fair world. Much of our emotional pain comes from a childish expectation that the world owes us fairness. You think, I am a good guy, I work hard, I treat people well, therefore no one should disrespect me. This is a delusion. The universe does not operate on a moral ledger. Bad things happen to strong men. Disrespect is directed at honourable people. When you expect fairness, every insult feels like a cosmic betrayal. You take it personally because it shatters your naive view of reality. Shatter that view yourself, right now. Accept that people are irrational, selfish and often cruel. Expect the disrespect. When you anticipate that people will act according to their flawed nature, you are never surprised, and therefore you are never hurt. You view their bad behaviour as a law of nature, like the rain. You do not yell at the rain for making you wet. You just open your umbrella. Emotional alchemy. Turning pain into fuel. What if, instead of just deflecting insults, you could actually use them? This is the highest tier of psychological mastery, emotional alchemy. It is the ability to take the dark, toxic energy directed at you and transmute it into cold, hard fuel for your own ambition. When someone doubts you, mocks your goals, or disrespects your effort, do not crumble. Do not argue. Let the insult sink in, just enough to extract the raw energy from it. Use their doubt as the pre-workout for your discipline. Every time you feel tired, every time you want to quit, remember the face of the person who said you could not do it. Let their disrespect burn in the furnace of your work ethic. The weak man is paralyzed by criticism. The untouchable man gets rich, gets strong, and gets powerful precisely because of the criticism. He eats disrespect for breakfast and converts it into undeniable success. Rejecting the victim narrative entirely. Taking things personally is the foundational building block of the victim mentality. It is a story you tell yourself. Look what they did to me. Look how they hurt me. I am suffering because of them. There is zero power in this narrative. Zero. Society might reward victims with temporary sympathy, but it will never respect them. And more importantly, you will never respect yourself. Elite men refuse the victim label under all circumstances. Even when they are genuinely wronged, they do not adopt the identity of the injured party. They look at the situation coldly, extract the lesson, adjust their strategy, and move forward. By refusing to take the offence personally, you completely deny the attacker the satisfaction of making you a victim. You remain the author of your own story, refusing to let an amateur writer hijack your script. Establishing boundaries without emotion. Some men confuse not taking things personally with being a passive doormat. They think stoicism means letting people walk all over them. This is a massive misunderstanding. You can, and must, have brutal, unbreakable boundaries. The difference is how you enforce them. A weak man enforces boundaries with anger, shouting, and emotional explosions. He takes the boundary violation personally. The strong man enforces boundaries like a brick wall. A brick wall does not get angry when you run into it. It just stops you from going further. If someone disrespects you, you do not need to throw a tantrum. You simply impose a consequence. You walk away, you cut the business deal, you end the relationship. Cold, calculated, and emotionless. You enforce the rule not because your feelings are hurt, but because that is the standard you require for your life. True boundaries require zero anger. The temporary nature of sound waves. Zoom out for a moment. Think about the physical reality of an insult. Someone pushes air out of their lungs, vibrates their vocal cords, and creates sound waves that travel into your ear. That is it. The event is over in 2 seconds. Everything that happens after those 2 seconds is a product of your own imagination. You replay the sound waves in your head. You analyze them. You lose sleep over them. You keep the ghost of the event alive for days, weeks, or even years. Why are you letting a 2-second vibration of air ruin your week? When you strip away the emotional drama and look at the physical reality, taking things personally seems almost comical. Let the sound wave pass. It is gone. It only exists in the past. To bring it into your present is a choice. Choose to let it fade into the silence it came from. The stoic anchor in modern chaos. The ultimate goal is to become an anchor in the storm. The modern world thrives on chaos, outrage, and emotional volatility. The media, social networks, and toxic individuals are all trying to pull you into their hurricane. They want you spinning out of control with them. When you stop taking things personally, you become heavy. You become grounded. The winds howl around you, people scream, insults fly, but you do not move. You observe the chaos without becoming the chaos. This is the essence of true masculine power. It is the ability to provide stability, not just for yourself, but for those around you. When people see that you cannot be provoked, that your ego is bulletproof, they will naturally look to you for leadership. Your calmness becomes a dominant force. You win the game simply by refusing to play by their chaotic rules. The final state of untouchable freedom. Imagine the immense freedom that comes from this mastery. Imagine waking up tomorrow knowing that there is not a single combination of words anyone can speak that can alter your inner peace. You no longer fear rejection. You no longer fear criticism. You are completely liberated to pursue your purpose, speak your truth, and live on your own terms. The energy you use to waste defending your ego is now entirely channeled into building your empire, your body, and your legacy. This is not an easy shift. It requires brutal self-awareness and relentless daily practice, but the reward is absolute invincibility. You step out of the matrix of emotional manipulation. You are no longer a target. You are the untouchable man, the 1% who observes the noise, smiles, and continues ascending. You now hold the blueprint to mental invincibility. You understand that taking things personally is a choice, a symptom of a fragile ego, and a surrender of your power. The days of reacting, defending, and letting the noise of the world dictate your internal state are over. True strength is not in the loudness of your reaction, but in the crushing weight of your silence and the absolute control over your own mind. Do not just watch this and move on. Implement these principles today. Build the fortress, guard the gates. Thank you for standing among the few who demand more from themselves. If this completely shifted your perspective, hit the like button and subscribe to join the elite minority who are mastering the psychology of power. Now I have a question for you. What is the one situation where you find it hardest to control your reaction? Drop it in the comments below and let us dissect it. Stay cold, stay focused, and remain untouchable.